Hello and welcome back, everyone, to another installment of Dream Chasers Ground Zero. Today, I have with us only our special co-host, April Munson. And April and I really kind of have something special planned for these, I guess we'll call them December editions. I guess we'll go with something along those lines. Anyway, we kind of have a cool little plan of just some different like things that we want to dive into that really we haven't really had the opportunity to kind of chop up on, the show yet as of to this date. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into that. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to April, let her say hello and, kind of share a couple of things as far as her inspiration for, where some of this idea came from. And then we're going to go ahead and dive into it.
Yeah, thank you. So this really was kind of like a group. It wasn't just me who came up with it, but I thought that this would be the perfect time of year for this because I've tried to do an interview centered on you for a really long time because I felt like, okay, we are 35, 36 episodes in and nobody knows your story. And we slightly touch on this, between both of our episodes. We'll kind of like relate to something that someone's saying and be like, oh, that was my experience. But nobody really knows where DCGZ or Dream Chasers Ground Zero, which is Ground Zero in general, came from. And I feel like that's really important for everyone to know. And that's why I thought, with the end of the year, upon us, because this will be going out for December, that I thought it'd be really cool if we just centered this month on telling our stories. And I think that'd be a really cool way to wrap up 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, obviously, my story, I guess you could say, is important. But at the same time, like, I think it really gives us a chance to elaborate, like, where you come in. And I know that, shoot, this was a little while ago now, but like we had originally planned on some other projects that never made it to the surface that really did kind of dive into some of these things. But like I said, they kind of never made it out where some of that stuff where like the two of us got together and kind of talked about a lot of inspiration as far as you coming onto the show and sharing your perspective, and becoming the Ground Zero co-host, I guess you could say. Where, like I said, like none of that really kind of came to the surface. So I think it gives us a really unique opportunity to kind of dive into that journey as well. And I think it also kind of gives us a really cool, opportunity to one, just kind of talk shop between the two of us as far as like what this experience has been like for us, over the last year. I mean, it hasn't been quite a full year yet, but like really it felt like it, that's for sure. But I just know that like really there has been so much that has gone on really since this original kind of snowball started rolling. I want to say back in February and March of last year. And, I think it just really gives us a really cool opportunity to kind of dive into some of those things that happened along the way that, we've learned from along the way. So, I know you said you had a few things prepared.
For
So
one.
I'm going to go ahead and probably kick it back to you for that. And then from there, I suppose we're just going to kind of go with the flow. So yeah, I'll go ahead and dish it back to you and we'll go ahead and, dive into it.
I really love this because, I have not been like prepared for anything that we've done. I'm very much off script, just go with the flow, whatever happens, happens. So I think this is really cool for you because I did not send you the questions before this. And I've never really seen you too unscripted. So this is raw and real Aaron for he who which likes to be prepared. So you can split this up however you want because I feel like this could be two separate things or blend it together, whatever you feel comfortable with. But I want to know, where does Dream Chasers Ground Zero come from? But I also want to know, so I want to know where it comes from as the podcast. But I also want to know where that came from leading up to that. So if those to you are two separate things, split that up however you like. Or if it's just one big story, that's fine too. I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah. So a decent bit to unpack there. You're definitely going to have to keep me on track here, but yeah. So, first and foremost, I want to touch on the Mr. Scripted thing first. 90% of the time, like what I say on the show isn't scripted either. But when we do have certain like big projects and things coming up, April knows this better than anyone. I do like to be very, not necessarily scripted, but prepared where If any of you kind of watch the show consistently, you definitely have seen that, I will be mid conversation and forget completely what I'm talking about. So I like to have, something that I can follow, not necessarily to the letter, but something that just, keeps me on track, keeps my thoughts kind of collected, that I can refer to, if I get kind of like spaced out mid sentence. So, yeah, just kind of wanted to touch on that for a second. But as far as where Dream Chasers Ground Zero came from, I mean, a lot of you have heard me touch on, a few different things as far as like where my journey began. I know it's been a couple years now, but really all I wanted to do prior to any of the projects that I'm working on now is I wanted to play basketball. That was my thing. I didn't really care where or how or, how any of that, like that's just all I wanted to do. That was my one passion. That's where I felt happy. And that's what I want. I never wanted to stop doing that. Well, long story short, because we could go on for a very long time about everything that happened there, but long story short, I more or less started to realize that that wasn't going to happen. And, I lost some of the joy that came with that. And I more or less had to find out, you know, what else am I going to do? Because one, I didn't exactly know how I was going to make money doing that anyway. Um, and, just some other things. But yeah, like I had to kind of completely changed direction where that entire dream had kind of been uprooted and I was pretty much left feeling empty, where that was my passion. That is where I spent all of my time for 20 years, and I didn't know what else I was really interested in. So I mean, this is where I had my original, I guess you could say, ground zero moment. And I won't say that's the only one, but that's the big one, where I literally had to do soul searching. And like I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know really where to go or what to do, who to talk to, any of those things. I was completely and utterly lost. I had absolutely no clue what I wanted to do with my life. And quite frankly, I was upset. I was feeling the loss of basketball. That was my passion up until that point, to where I just like I didn't have anything else to kind of fill that void in my life at that time. So it was quite literally like a withdrawal type of experience where I didn't really know, where I was going, and I like literally felt sick. But anyway, it took some time and, as I said, some soul searching and things before I started to realize kind of what I wanted out of my life per se, and then I had to kind of find a new way to start working towards those things. And for me, like, I don't want to work forever. I don't want to be stuck in a 9 to 5 job until I'm 75. And, there's lots of other reasons that we could go into about that. But yeah, I mean, I saw the way, I grew up with my parents, and, God bless them both. I had a truly wonderful family and upbringing, but, I never really got to see either one of them do really anything that they wanted for themselves. Like, don't get me wrong, they enjoyed, spending time with us, going to, our games, me and my siblings, but I still never really got to see them like sit down and do something that they wanted to do. And that always just kind of like perturbed me a little bit, to where like that's just not what I wanted. I wanted to have, free time and freedom to do kind of just as I choose. So more or less, when I started researching how to do that, um, more or less what came up was that you have to learn how to build wealth, and like not just make a whole bunch of money, but like wealth, lasting wealth. And in how to do that, real estate came up. So then, that being a popular one, I started to kind of go down that rabbit hole. But there, if any of you out there have done any sort of research or have, started kind of, going down that rabbit hole, you know exactly what I mean when I talk about the amount of noise that is surrounded around that topic. So, yeah, more or less, I got lost really fast, and I was quite literally spiraling just because there was so much information and I had no clue which direction was up and what really I was supposed to be paying attention to. But I was still interested. I continued to try and learn more and, see where that could take me. But anyway, then we had a networking event at my school. This was fall of 2020. So this was virtual at the time. And a man named Adam Carswell attended that symposium. So he was actually one of the speakers in a real estate room that ironically, the only reason I went to it was because my business professor at the time was the one moderating the room. And he told me that if I attended one of the ones that he was moderating, that I might get some bonus points. So I jumped in that one, and I was trying to, kiss up, I guess you could say, to gain a few extra points in his class. But then really from Adam and the other speakers in the room, they kind of just opened my eyes to a whole nother world that was out there that I really had no clue existed up until that point. Because even after I started doing some research into real estate, like to me, it was still pretty much like flipping houses, buying and selling of single family houses, just, little kind of, I don't want to say little, but not even realizing that those aren't the large transactions that kind of go on behind the scenes as far as real estate goes. So then to hear, some of these guys speak on what commercial real estate is, it was kind of eye opening. So then they kind of piqued my interest on that. And, just during this Zoom meeting, I just privately messaged Adam and I just said, hey, look, like I've got all the drive in the world, but I have not a clue what I'm doing. And I need more or less your help. And, I'd really love if we could set up a call sometime and, just maybe you could help me. And him being who he is, he was more than open, more than happy to set that up. And then, one thing led to another, where he more or less kind of became a mentor for me, where we set up that first call and, he kind of helped me get my name out there and get a little more of an idea as far as like what exactly I was pursuing. And he connected me to a few other people in the industry to talk to. And really that's where I didn't know it at the time, but really that's where the first kind of inklings of creating the podcast came from. Because really what he did is he connected me with a few other people that he knows that are working in different areas of the industry, as far as like some people are in capital raising, some people are actually, more so on the development side, and then some people are more on the social media branding side. So I got to meet, people kind of on a wide spectrum that all still kind of like touch, dip their feet in the industry a little bit, that I could kind of, not to overuse the cliche, but pick their brain as far as like, and try to find what I wanted to do, what I was looking for in that. So that's when, I would get on these phone calls with these people and I would ask them about their story. And then I would tell them my story, and, and then we would talk about what we've learned and what they've, implemented. And really what I heard over and over and over again from all these people is, like you're at a tremendous advantage because of how young you are. And that I wish I had started sooner. And really that's just where, they really started kind of playing a seed in my head that like, if everybody wishes they had started sooner, then why don't I just start right now? And then I can't say that because now I'm starting here. And yeah, maybe there's an opportunity that I could have started sooner too. But at the same time, I'm already ahead of how many people because I'm starting now. So skipping ahead a little bit, that still goes on for a little while. Adam and I start to kind of have like regular phone calls as far as like him just checking up on me and, helping me kind of keep a good direction. And that really kind of became an internship experience where I got to kind of come on to the Dream Chasers team and help him out with his show, doing some show notes, transcriptions, just kind of a few different things there. And even eventually going into video editing to, like kind of learning what that was like a little bit behind the scenes as far as like podcast production goes. And then, in being a part of that team and helping him as far with, his production and things like that, he, trying to take his own team to the next level, no pun intended. But then he decided that he wanted us all to go to some different events come springtime. And one of those events was 10X Growth Conference earlier this year. That's if you're not familiar, that's Grant Cardone. That's his big brand, him and a tremendous amount of different, wonderful speakers all come together and, talk about their businesses and what they've learned, their own stories, lots of things. I mean, it was a really, really, really awesome experience. But what I say was the most important thing for me was it just really opened my eyes to what was possible. Where I will say we attended virtually. We didn't get to go in person. But what for me, like, don't get me wrong, like tons and tons of value listening to these, speakers and things and all telling their stories. And I really love to hear each of their stories, just kind of where they came from and, how they got to where they are now, despite, what everybody would think based on their backgrounds. And that I was easily able to relate to because like I'm far from some huge successful business professional that's made millions and millions of dollars. Like, no, I'm sorry, that's not me. Maybe someday, but not right now. Like, so, when they start talking all those technicalities and all the money they made and all the moves that they've, made as far as like markets and things go, that stuff was kind of going right over my head. Like, I was there as an intern. Like, I did not really understand a lot of this stuff. Not to mention, like, I really just made the curve into some of this stuff a few months ago. So, like I said, a lot of that was going kind of directly over my head, but I really related to the stories. And that's where I kind of stuck. And I noticed that there wasn't a lot, I mean, really any information on those topics that I could find for someone geared like to myself. There was nobody creating content out there for me specifically for the situation that I was in at that time, where I just really had this idea and this dream, but had no clue how to make it happen. So I then bring this idea, I guess you could say, to Adam, and he more or less says, dude, we got to get you a show. Like, we got to make this happen. You need to start getting this message out there. You need to start sharing this vision with other people. And I'm like, absolutely not. It's literally what I told him on the spot. I'm like, why in the world would I do that? Like, I can't stand to hear my voice on the phone. I can't, like, absolutely not. I'm not a camera. What's the word? Like, either way, I just did not see myself being a good fit for, that sort of project, we'll call it. But he more or less just let it go. He just kind of planted the seed and was like, all right, we'll see where this goes. Um, Lo and behold, obviously I did end up starting the show. He just kind of let it simmer long enough that I realized that nobody else is going to do it for me and somebody has to carry the torch. So I tried to step into that role. And I mean, we've been, recording and making this happen since March, April. I mean, it's been a wild ride, but it's been really, really, really awesome. And that's where, I was really just trying to start curating that type of content for people my age, people in my situation that, may be going through a life event right now. Like, especially someone college age, you're going through a lot of different things right now as far as what you want to do with the rest of your life. Could be lots of family events. I mean, you're in a really the prime stage of your life for just, I'm trying to think of a word here, for just more or less a wild conglomerate of things to happen to you and throw you off of everything that you think you know. So that's where I just really wanted to step into that role and give someone in that position, like somewhere that they could go and listen to people that understand or people that have been through that before. And really, Adam helped me do just that. And, maybe it hasn't taken off yet, but at the same time, like, I've had a wonderful time, sharing my story with some of these guests, hearing their stories, and really just creating this kind of community, I guess you could call it, of people that know exactly what Ground Zero is and that have had to deal with it, firsthand. And we've all made it out. And now we want to help other people do the same. So I hope that answers your question. I know that was extremely long-winded. I don't know if that was like 10 minutes or something like that, but anyway, that is pretty much where like the inspiration and the initial launch of everything came from. I mean, I just realized that essentially nobody else was doing it and nobody's going to do it for us. And Adam more or less forced me to do it. So here we are.
No, I love that. And what I really love the most, what I've learned from Adam, he always says, tell your story and tell it again and tell it again and tell it again. And every time I hear your story, I think I've heard it quite a bit. Like, I feel like I get something new from it every single time. And I swear I'm not just saying that just because we're here. I really take from that and think about my own story and how that's led me to where I am, because that's really the mission and the purpose of everything that you're doing anyway. So if you can affect someone like me who has worked beside you and who hears it all the time, there's no reason why I feel like you can't affect change across the entire world. So taking from that, because it's such a nice transition. You were talking about doing this at a traditional college age. My next question here is, in college, being that traditional age, because I'm not, and balancing the responsibility of family and friends and work and doing this and school and building a business, which we have not talked about at all, which you don't have to like totally dive in, but that is on the list of things that you have balanced this summer. Talk about that and what that looks like for someone, your age and how this affects you, and maybe the advice you would give to someone who is looking to do the same and get into that same realm.
Yeah. There's a kind of a lot to unpack there again, but all great things though. That's where it's like really, like hits me on like where it matters. But yeah. So I mean, first things first, it is not easy. If you are looking for easy, it is not here. I will tell you that right now, because it is extremely difficult to prioritize everything that you're trying to do, because you don't know whether to prioritize your vision or what you want to do at the moment, or friends or family. Like, you don't really know. And it's really hard to try and stack some of those things on top of each other, because they're all extremely important to you. Like, if you have a close group of friends, I know they're important to you. If you're close with your family, I know they're important to you. But at the same time, you do kind of have to choose. And it's where, kind of, I don't want to say that, I don't mean this in any, bad way whatsoever, but kind of like, what takes care of itself? Does my family take care of itself, or do I have to, like, do I have to be the one to support my family? Do my friends take care of themselves, or do I have to be there to support them and hold them up? Or does my future take care of itself? And I feel like that was one of the hardest things for me, is like, I love my family to death, and I always want to be with my family, and I always wanted to be with my friends. But if I spend all my time with my family and my friends, I'm never going to achieve that vision that I have. And that's where I kind of had to, make a shift where, instead of, I don't know, picking odds or ends things that I could be doing, instead, maybe I have to pick up a book and spend some time in that and learn, about personal development, just something that, might not be that exciting, but, it's just little things that you do kind of have to make a lot of sacrifices as far as that goes. Like, maybe I can't go to this party this weekend because I have, a networking event or something like that. Like, you really don't know what that looks like, because some of it, like, you're all going to, like, if any of you are listening to this right now, you're all going to go into different things. Like, and odds are there's somebody else there, but like, there's no one person that is going to go to the exact same place as you with the exact same vision. I feel like that is another thing that I can touch on, and April can attest to this for sure, is that not everyone is going to see your vision the way that you do. And that is another thing that really kind of, we'll say, bit me in the butt, because I had this vision that I was super, super excited about, as far as like the podcast goes. And April mentioned building a business and a couple other things as well. That I had this huge, huge vision of just things that I felt was like life changing. And I was super excited about it. And I was all out, like, just doing everything that I could to make that happen. But you don't expect, like, there might be other people that can understand what you're going for, but nobody sees that the way that you do. And like, that is just something that you should acknowledge forthright, because you have to be careful with kind of who you share that with. Because really, if this is a vision as far as like your entire future goes, then that's something that you hold extremely close and dear to you, and like your personal beliefs, and you know what I mean. Anyway, like, one of the things that I kind of dealt with along the way is, I was so excited that I pretty much shared that with everyone, that, I was just so excited. Like, and I just wanted everybody to know about it. I wanted everybody to know what I was doing, not because I wanted any sort of attention or gratitude or anything like that, but just because I was so excited about it. And I wanted other people to know what I was doing. And I knew I needed help. So I wasn't necessarily afraid to tell somebody else, in being willing to hear feedback or anything like that. But there's a lot of people out there that really are looking out for you, but they don't see it the way that you do. So in asking them for that type of advice can be detrimental, because there's a lot of people that may have tried and failed to do what you're going to do, and they'll tell you that it's not worth it. Or there's going to be a lot of people that never even tried to do what you want to do, and they're going to tell you that it's not worth it, or that you'll never make it. But what do they know? They all know how to tell you that you'll never make it on your own. They all know how to tell you, which, I'm sorry, like, it's just, they all know what to say to, kind of bring you down. But it's because you're asking the wrong people. Like, you have to be selective about who you're asking for advice. And for me, that was extremely difficult in the beginning because I didn't know anybody that had been there before. And most of us really aren't going to, but that is where, finding an exceptional mentor is detrimental because I think that's the right word. That might not be good. Imperative, maybe we'll say. Maybe we'll switch it. Yeah. Anyway, shifting back into it here. Um, that's where, finding somebody that was bigger than me and that had not the same vision, but a similar vision that could understand kind of what I wanted to do and what I was trying to accomplish was more productive for me in the moment than asking my family. And I hate to say that. And it's not like they don't care. It's not like it was coming from a place of malice. It's just that they didn't see it the way that I do. And they were never, taught that. They never tried any of that. So it was something completely alien to them. But yeah, so I'd say that was one of the most important things for me. And I can dive into that a little bit further if you'd like, but I don't want to go like too far on one thing. How are we doing right now?
We're great. We're fine. I mean, I think you're doing awesome. You're staying right, like on track. Don't doubt yourself. Everything that you're saying, I think, is completely important and 100% valuable. If you'd like me to go back over what the question was, I can. And it was just talking about balancing all of it at this age with friends, family, relationships, school, prioritizing with work, and trying to and doing this and building a business. Do you have any other advice for anyone who hasn't maybe even started yet, or maybe who is there and they're kind of like sinking maybe?
Yeah, I think I touched on it for the most part, at least everything that could come to the top of my head. But I could easily dive into more actionable things, I guess you could say, as far as like finding that mentor or kind of overcoming, internal fears or, external beliefs in terms of like what other people think about what you're doing. But I don't necessarily want to I don't want to like completely dominate this either. I want to make sure that I give you a chance to, talk and add input as well. So
Okay, so are you not diving into those things? Because I feel like these are the things that you do talk about. Like these are the things that you and I talk about. Like that's real. So like I encourage you to like take the time, because I feel like every time we've hit like a roadblock with everything we've been working on, it has been the conversation of rerouting mentors and digging a little bit deeper, all the things that you just said, and rerouting. So I feel like that is super important because that's real.
yeah, I really like what you said there because it kind of reminded me of another thought that um, I want to kind of break the ice. I don't know. Once again, I don't know if that's the right term for this, but anyway, kind of shed the belief that once you get through this, we'll call it a ground zero moment. Like once you get through this moment, that you're never going to have another one. That's not true. And I hate to say it, but it's not. You're going to have another one tomorrow. You're going to have another one next week. You're going to have another one a month from now. You never know. Really, we have moments like that every day. And no, they don't all carry the same weight, but you are going to have moments like that. And I think that's where I kind of wanted to dispel that kind of belief, like just I'd say first and foremost, but we're like halfway through now. Um, anyway, yeah, I would say one of the biggest things for me was just finding a mentor that kind of understood my vision to an extent, that like was able to point me in the right direction. And that's where you I know I touched on it a little bit already, but you just have to it is imperative that you find somebody that is either in the industry that you want to go into or has done what you want to do, something along those lines. You have to have somebody that understands what you're trying to accomplish and can at least help you with their experience and point you in a good direction to get there. You can use multiple different avenues to find people like that. I'm sure most of you have already thought of someone that you either see on Facebook or Instagram or kind of whatever outlet, TikTok, I guess you could even go to now, that, there's someone on there that is doing what you want to do, or that is, at least similar, that has done something that you want to do, just someone that you want to be like. And really just study what they do. If they talk about books that they're reading, order that book. If they talk about things that they do in the morning, start doing them too. Just model what works. And really, that's one of the things that I've implemented to help me kind of, increase productivity and things like that. But the next thing is reach out to them. Some of these guys, like, I understand that, like, like, I'm not saying reach out to Grant Cardone. Like, odds are he's not going to respond. Like, you don't necessarily have to go that big. They don't have to be some guru that, that dominates social media and is just this huge mogul that's just going to try to sell you a program. They don't have to be, they don't have to be somebody that big, but just someone that is even 2 steps ahead of you, that just has enough experience to help you from where you are to where you want to go. And, like April said, maybe you can reroute and find a new mentor at that point. But the biggest thing is just kind of finding some common ground with them. That's where, I was lucky enough that when I was in that Zoom room with Adam, him and I shared the same school. He is an alumni from Westminster. I obviously go to Westminster. So I was able to kind of reach out and say, like, hey, I was on the basketball team previously. I know you played basketball here. So I was just able to kind of use that to kind of break the ice a little bit, and it makes them kind of more inclined. They, feel more connected to you right off the jet, just because they have that thing that you share in common. And then you're able to kind of use that common ground to, as I said, kind of persuade them to, help you out. And from there, like, as I said before, like, I was just transparent. Like, I told him right from the get, I don't have a damn clue what I'm doing. Like, but I'm here for it. I'm here to learn. And that's what I told him. And really from there, like, he just said, all right, well, let's get it then. You know what I mean? We'll kind of assess where you are. We'll hop on a call and we'll go from there. It's like, so just let them know where you're at. Don't claim to be some hot shot. Just tell them, like, look, I'm a college student and I don't understand what's going on. I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I'm interested in the X thing. And I know you have experience in that. And I'd really love it if you can help me out. And you don't necessarily have to quote that to the letter, but you might as well, I guess. But another thing that is really good to use is just kind of providing value to them before you ask for it back. And one of the things that I mean by that is that, like, asking for advice rather than asking for a job is kind of what I mean. So, like, you can't necessarily just message someone and say, like, hey, I'm highly qualified for X position, you should hire me. That's not going to work. But what you can do is say, similar to what we just covered, here's where I'm at, being fully transparent. I have X in common with you, and I just really like it if you could point me in the right direction. That's much more approachable, and it's going to make them want to help you a lot more than you coming in demanding some type of result from them right away. But that's really it as far as, like, the mentor stuff goes. That's the stuff that I use personally. I mean, you're welcome to use that as much as you like. It's worked for me so far. I mean, I've literally never been turned down for a call. Like, and I'm not saying that to brag in any way whatsoever, but, like, it's just, don't overcomplicate it. Where there's a lot more people out there that are willing to help you than you think. And I know I've said that numerous times on this show, but just, it's true. Like, there's really, honestly, so many people out there. And I mean, especially if you hang out somewhere like LinkedIn, like I said, it does not have to be some over the top CEO, like, it doesn't have to be Elon Musk. It can literally be, somebody from the town over that, I can't think of a specific position right now, but either way, just has a little bit more experience than you that can help you understand where you're at right now. So, don't overcomplicate it, and don't be afraid to reach out to them. When you, share your story, like, and don't type your whole story in the first message. I guess I should have said that earlier, but, try to keep it short and sweet. But, like, when you share, where you are with them, they're going to remember where they were. And that's where you're going to hook them. That's where they're going to say, you know what? I remember exactly where this kid is. I remember being in his shoes. I remember that, because they're going to feel that, like, especially if that's some moment where, they're that close to, like, their quote unquote ground zero moment, they're going to remember that. It's going to tie to something emotionally that's going to remind them of what that was like. And they're going to be further inclined to help you. So, definitely, follow those few things. I feel like I'm, like, teaching a course right now. I should have a whiteboard back here. I don't know. But anyway, those are definitely the things that, I would implement for sure.
That's perfect. And I agree, really, going off of that. I feel like people aren't as hard to reach as you might think. I've messaged people that I have been inspired by on Instagram, and I show Jay and I'm like, this is not hard. These people, it looks like they have 500,000 followers, 800,000 followers, and they respond. So it's not as hard as you think. I agree.